Okay, I'm going to spend the day today answering as many questions as I possibly can about Edison Motors and the diesel electric truck. Oh, trust me, nobody wants to pull a loaded trailer as much as I do. That is like the first thing I wanted to do with it, and the rest of the team's like, no, Chase, you can't just immediately go haul a Super Bee down the mountain. We need the data. The engineers want the data. They want the, make sure that stuff works. All the rest, ease into it. So that's why we've been driving it around, testing it bobtailing, testing some of the rectification, figuring out some of those problems that happen while we're doing the test bobtailing. Get as much data as we can there, put it on the dyno, see what the power output is on the dyno, then start out, pull an empty trailer, then maybe pull a trailer with half a load, and then they'll let me do a full load. But we got to progressively work our way up. It's the proper steps in testing. It's boring, and I want to go pull a Super Bee right now, but we got to think sensibly about it, because if we snap things and we don't get the data before winter, and then that's gonna, I just want to do it, but sorry. All right, what's the fuel savings on a diesel electric truck gonna be? What are the miles per gallon? That's a really good question, but it's also one of the hardest ones for me to answer. You see, if we were making a dry van, a truck that's just gonna be going down the interstate, pulling 80,000 pounds on flat ground, we could calculate it, we could tell you the miles per gallon, but that's not what we're making. We're making heavy haul vocational trucks. We're making logging trucks, gravel trucks, cement trucks, hydrovac trucks, service rigs, low bedding trucks. These really depend what you're doing. I don't know how to answer the mile per gallon question on a logging truck, because the answer is it depends what your road looks like. So I'm going to answer it the best I can. I'm going to show you the data on the generator, the fuel consumption on the generator. I'm going to show you how long the truck can run off its batteries before you got to fire the generator, how long it takes to generate. That'll tell you the runtime. And then we'll just have to basically figure it out from there, because the best way to do it is put the electric truck next to a diesel truck and see what the difference is. That's a little bit harder to do, as we're just testing it bobtailing and we're working our way up to full loads, and I'll start showing you the difference between the two. But for now, here's just what the technical data says. So this is the motor we're going with. It's a C9 Caterpillar, which means it's a 9-liter diesel motor. This is what replaces the C15, which is what the normal truck would have. An equivalent 15-liter motor. So this puts out about 240 kilowatts, 250 kilowatts. We have 100 kilowatt hour batteries, which means it'll take about half an hour at 75% load to fully charge the truck batteries. And in an hour, it burns 48 liters of fuel. So therefore, in half an hour, it's burning 24 liters of fuel. So we learned in our truck, running around just kind of as a bobtail, we got about 3 hours out of a bobtail rig. And then we got to fire the generator up and build that power back up, which means that in 3 hours of driving, we use 24 liters of fuel, which means we burn 8 liters per hour driving around. However, when you put a trailer on, you lower your range. Maybe it's down to 2. And if you're pulling Super Bees, you'll probably need to fire up, you'll probably get an hour of runtime out of this engine before you got to fire it up, which means you're burning it every single hour. You're burning 24 liters per hour running your trains. So that kind of gives you a little bit different thing. But then you got to consider the regenerative braking too. On a logging truck, you're going up the hill empty and you're coming down loaded. That regenerative braking is going to recharge your logs, which means you may almost never have to fire the generator up, maybe just a little bit to get to the mill. In a full day, you might only run that generator for half an hour because your regen's coming in. See how that makes a bit of a difference there? On the right logging application, like on the West Coast, you might only burn 25, 50 liters a day in fuel instead of 500 liters. That's a huge savings. On a highway truck, your fuel savings might only be like 5%. On a logging truck, you could be up to 95%. So our fuel savings is somewhere between 5 to 100%. So our glorious leader, Kim Jong-un, asks, are there plans to make a pickup version of the Edison truck? Right now, there's a plan for a pickup in a weird skunk works where we're not going to build a pickup, but if we can figure out the e-axles and an easy to retrofit kit that we could sell as just a kit, we'll go ahead with that, but that's on a back burner. The hard concrete plans are to do like a 5-ton truck for like a service rig or a welding rig. I mean, see, these are on the same chassis as your full-size trucks. Same standard frame rails, they're just single axle instead of tandem. The advantage here with a service truck is that you would have 3-phase power and that battery power to run all your tools. You could run full-size shop tools on your service rig. I mean, how sweet would an old W9 or an old Peterbilt be as a shop truck? They make e-axles that make easy 4x4. You don't need the transfer case. You just a steer axle electric, back drive electric, the same power as a tandem, but just in your service rig. So yeah, an Edison 5-ton sweet service rig is in the works. I mean, hell, we could use a service truck ourselves. The most impressive thing our electric truck has done so far is actually work. We didn't need to release the brakes and roll it down a hill to make a fake video of our truck moving. It actually moved. I mean, hell, we even let a bunch of random people hop in it in front of a large crowd and drive the truck to prove that it actually worked and anybody could hop in and drive it. So a bunch of truck drivers and loggers up in Canada made an electric truck that actually worked, and $1 billion company faked it. So I'd say that's probably our most impressive thing. So yeah, the generator is designed to turn on when the battery voltage drops to a certain level, but there is a manual switch in the cab where you can control it. So in the cab here, we got the generator controls off. That'll run the generator automatically. Voltage drops to a certain load on the batteries, it'll come on. Other than that, we also have the manual start mode. That's, you know, if you got a long hill pull coming up or you want to strategically have your batteries charged for a certain time, you'll be able to control what it does on the generator. So this truck isn't driver thought free. You still got to put some thought into, you know, when you're going to want that charge for the batteries. Or you're at the bottom of a huge hill and you got to climb it. You might want those batteries at 100%. Make sure you got the power to get up to the top of the hill. However, maybe you're at the top of the hill and you're going to be regenning the whole way down. You don't want the batteries fully charged, so you leave that generator off. This is a bit of pre-planning, or you can leave it in auto and let it do its thing. So we got all the registration now. Cover up my address up top, but here we go. 1962 Kenworth, truck tractor, color blue, commercial truck, fuel type electric. That means that the government registers and classifies this truck as an electric vehicle. To get full insurance and plates on it, the last step it has to go through, though, is a safety inspection. So we have an appointment to bring that in about a week and a half. We'll bring that in there. They'll go through it, make sure that everything's safe, give us a list of things to fix that may not be. But yeah, and then after we pass that safety inspection, it'll be registered, plated, on the road, and we can start hauling shit. As it stands for the test right now, we have to put a temporary operating permit in order to drive around and test it. So stay tuned. I'll let you know everything we failed on the safety inspection, what we got to fix, what we got to change, and the process of going through that on the electric vehicle, because that should be interesting when this rolls into the shop. That's right. This generator literally only turns on when it needs to charge the batteries. That is the only purpose of this diesel motor in the truck. It doesn't run power steering. It doesn't run the air compressor for the brakes. This thing is literally shut off until you need to charge the batteries. The best way to think of this truck is a fully 100% electric truck that carries its own onboard level 4 fast charger. A hybrid requires a diesel motor to run in conjunction with the electric motors. That's why it's a hybrid. It requires both systems. Ours is fully electric. You could take that motor out of the truck and it becomes a fully 100% electric vehicle. All you need to do is remove the motor and it will not change how the truck operates at all. It will only affect the range. The truck still has air brakes. You can't rely 100% on the regenerative braking. So what we did, though, is we ran an electric air compressor inside this box here. Funny thing about air compressors, this is one of the mistakes we made during the prototyping. We didn't go with the right air compressor. They said it would be good for us, it would work. It didn't hold up, and it actually, within about an hour of driving the truck, the air compressor just like grenaded itself. It was junk. And we spent $1,000 on this air compressor. So what we did, this was like a few days before the truck show. So what we did is we ran off the 110 volt system, went to Canadian Tire and got an off-the-shelf air compressor for like 120 bucks. I mean, we literally stuck it in there and ran it with a 110 plug. But this is a good example of also the serviceability of our truck. See, the truck already has a built-in 110 inverter system, so you can run power tools and all that sort of stuff. So literally what we could do in a pinch was run down to the local Canadian Tire, grab something off the shelf, throw it in there, and the truck was immediately back to work the next day. I mean, this is all part of the learning process of building the prototype, though. All right, how does the Edison truck work in cold weather? This is one of my favorite questions because we literally have the best electric truck for cold weather. I'm going to share with you exactly what we did to make this the best electric vehicle ever for cold weather. So in the battery box here, these two lines are coolant lines. All right, open up this battery box here. And you'll see the batteries. They have the coolant lines coming off. Hot and the cold side runs through the batteries. Now, this is nothing fancy. This is what electric vehicles have to keep their batteries cool. And this is where our solution takes over from there. You see, we still got that diesel generator, which means we still have a diesel tank. We went and got a diesel heater. These are normally used in cold weather areas, and they just keep the coolant warm on the motor of the truck, so when you're cranking over your engine in the morning, it fires it up. What we did is we just plugged it into the coolant line for the batteries. So when it's cold out, where most EVs struggle with their batteries, we use that diesel heater to warm those batteries up. Which means the Edison truck doesn't have to worry about the cold batteries like the other EVs do. Yes, electric vehicles are required to make some sort of noise when they're going down the road to alert pedestrians that there's a truck. These things are really quiet. Like, even this for a logging truck, it's so quiet that sometimes pedestrians don't hear it. However, they leave it up to the manufacturer to decide what that kind of noise warning system is going to be. So at Edison Motors, we decided to go with a set of train horns off a locomotive. We'll mount these sons of bitches underneath that front bumper, and that pedestrian will very much reconsider whether they want to walk out in front of a loaded logging truck without looking.